I must preserve my knowledge. It's only the body that's failing. What have you done now, Armand?
Chapter 1. The Briefcase. Dr. Armand Vale had never believed in monsters. Not the kind that wore cloaks and crept through folklore. His monsters had always been chromosomal, hereditary, or born from man's own reckless tampering. He saw horror not in fangs or claws, but in the helixes of corrupted DNA, in the silent decay passed down through bloodlines like a curse with no incantation. His office, if one could call it that, was sterile, clinical, devoid of comfort. It was less a sanctuary than a holding cell for intellect. The walls were lined with refrigeration units, biometric safes, and long metal counters littered with microscopes, thermal cyclers, and centrifuges. The windows remained shut year-round. Light, as he often said, diluted thought. He had no family, no visitors, only work. And today, a briefcase. It arrived with no fanfare, no signature, no courier badge. Simply appeared on his workbench, wrapped in the stillness of early morning. He hadn't heard the door open, hadn't heard footsteps, but it was there. Old, leather, the kind used by men in another century. Cracked at the seams, stained in places, heavy with time. There was no tag, only a small, creased envelope tucked beneath the handle. His name, handwritten. Dr. Vale, this one's more up your alley. Thought you might like a puzzle. Codename. Tolman was confirmed neutralized 3 weeks ago. We found what was left of him. A scatter of ash, a scorched cloak. Nothing human, but we also found his sanctum. Most of it burned. Books gone. Files destroyed, except for 2 cases. You're holding the second one. J. Vale read it twice, then a third time. Tolman. The name stirred something half buried in his memory. An urban myth whispered on obscure forums. A manipulator, a recruiter, not just a vampire, but a strategist of the dark, gathering others under his command. Some claimed he could speak into minds. Others said he had no reflection because he had no soul left to reflect. All nonsense, except he opened the briefcase. Inside, black foam padding. 3 unused slots, 2 empty, 1 filled. A vial, small, capped, contained a liquid so dark it looked black, but when tilted toward the light, it shimmered with the deep arterial hue of oxidized blood. It pulsed, just slightly, as if remembering a heartbeat. There was a second note inside the case, typed, "Our lab ran preliminary scans. No standard markers, no human proteins. Cellular structure is not carbon-based. Molecular movement suggests something not entirely dead. Truthfully, this isn't our field. We kept 1 sample, sending you the other. Do what you do best." Dr. Vale placed the vial under the microscope. No analysis yet, just observation. Under the lens, the blood writhed. Not literally, not movement, but something like intention. Cells that responded to focus, not heat, as if aware of being watched. And in that moment, something stirred in him. A pull, a question, a whisper. What if it's true? What if the myth of the vampire was never myth, but biology misunderstood? He turned away from the microscope and stared at the vial. More up your alley, they had said. Indeed it was, because Vale wasn't just a geneticist. He was a pioneer of biological integration. He had spent the last 7 years attempting to isolate the genome for regenerative tissue. He had come close, too close. But this This was something else. A living relic from a dead predator. A serum from the shadow itself. And it was now his to study. He stood in silence, letting the weight of the moment settle. Outside the sky darkened, though it was only noon. A thunderstorm rolled in over the city. The lights flickered once. Dr. Vale smiled faintly. Some monsters arrive as myths. Others are shipped in briefcases. Chapter 2. The Test Subjects. Dr. Armand Vale had never handled something with such reverence or such danger. He didn't sleep. He didn't eat. The vial, now chilled and resting in an ultraviolet sealed chamber, haunted every corner of his vision. Every blink was a strobe between curiosity and caution. It wasn't just blood. It was biology rewritten, something older than humanity and far less forgiving. Vale began his work as dawn touched the skyline, though he had no memory of when night had fallen. He moved mechanically, hands gloved, eyes scanning, an artist in the medium of madness. He began by isolating the plasma, spinning the vial in his centrifuge. He watched as the heavy elements separated, though strangely, they resisted at first, as though the blood didn't want to divide. A sticky reluctance, like sinew pulled too tight. Next came filtration. Even at the highest mesh setting, his filters clogged in seconds, not with debris, but with something dense, as if the blood carried weight beyond matter, something psychic, something vibrating. He muttered to himself while he worked. Impossible viscosity, wrong electrical resistance. It's like it knows it's being handled. He thinned the solution with saline, just enough for it to be injectable into smaller veins. Then he stared at it, how the liquid shimmered, almost hypnotically. The red now glistened with purple iridescence, like a jewel buried in muscle. And then came the moment of truth. The guinea pigs. 2 subjects, both deliberately chosen. One was young but feeble, a runt, shaken and underweight, genetically deficient. The other was aged and large, sluggish, near the end of its natural life. Dr. Vale injected the runt first, 1/4 milliliter, into the rear thigh. Then the elder, same dosage. He stepped back, gloves slick with sweat, watched, waited. Nothing. For almost 3 minutes. Then, screaming, not from mouths, but from movement, sudden, violent. The 2 creatures began to twitch, then convulse. Eyes dilated, whiskers flared, their muscles spasmed unnaturally, not like seizures, but like something inside them was stretching to fit. Then they turned on each other. Squeals became shrieks, tiny teeth gnashed, fur flew as claws tore at skin. They attacked, unprovoked and frenzied, like wolves trapped in rodent flesh. Vale cursed and yanked on the cage door. Thick gloves, heavy cloth. He grabbed one and shoved it into an empty container. The other bit the metal bars, drawing blood from its own gums. Eyes wild, it took him several attempts to isolate them both. They writhed in separate enclosures, screaming without breath, clawing at walls until finally, after hours, they collapsed. Not dead, but exhausted. He stared at them, pulse racing. No sedatives, no adrenaline, just blood. He turned back to his microscope, spent the next 11 hours reviewing the molecular sequence again and again. The blood cells were not just active, they were multiplying, adapting, invading every organic structure they touched. The genetic markers mutated, rewriting the host's DNA strand by strand, not destroying it, but reprogramming it. His notes became erratic, equations trailed off. At one point, he forgot to blink for over 3 minutes. Then, without warning, sleep took him. Slumped in his chair, the hum of machines still whispering, Dr. Vale drifted into unconsciousness, the shadows curling around him like arms. He woke with a jolt. The room was cold. Time had passed. Maybe 2 hours, maybe 10. He blinked at the monitor, still glowing, but something felt wrong. He turned to the cages. Silence. Both guinea pigs stood still, calm, eyes open. No madness, no rage. And then he saw it. They were smaller, fur, smoother. Movement, alert but controlled. They had been reverted. He blinked hard, thinking he'd swapped cages by mistake. But no. The elder still bore the white scar across its left flank, a mark from a surgical stitch months prior. But now that scar sat on a body half its original age. It's not possible. He checked the runt. Healthy. Perfect coat. Musculature increased. The genetic deficiency gone. He staggered back. All the research. All the failures. The decades of trying to slow degeneration. To fight entropy. And now he held it in his hands. The answer to death. Not slowed. Reversed. Dr. Vale stood in stunned silence, the room gently humming around him like a prayer. Outside, the storm had passed, but inside this lab, something had awakened, something immortal. Chapter 3. The Weight of Years. Dr. Armand Vale shut the containment chamber with trembling fingers, not from fear, but from exhaustion. Every sample was labelled, every vial sealed behind biometric locks. The guinea pigs were caged separately, each now quietly eating, as if the transformation from decrepit to vigorous had never happened. Their eyes tracked him, sharper, clearer. He double-checked everything. No contamination, no loose tools, no forgotten notes. Then he powered down the lab systems, locked the facility behind 2 digital layers and a retinal scanner, and finally, after 27 hours of uninterrupted work, he muttered the words aloud. "I need food." His home was less of a home and more of a museum of fatigue. Books in piles, papers like snowdrifts, a fridge with expired milk and nothing else. He showered, steam clinging to old bones, and dressed in dark slacks and a wrinkled shirt that hadn't seen sunlight in weeks. He didn't cook, never did. Instead, he made his way down the quiet cobblestone street to Torrente's, a local eatery he'd visited for over a decade. The kind of place where the waiters didn't need to ask for your order and where the lighting was always low, mercifully low. He slid into a corner booth, loosened his collar, and ordered something hot. He couldn't remember what, and then he heard a familiar voice. "Armand, good Lord, I haven't seen you in days." Dr. Vale turned to see Elias Brandt, retired neurologist, former colleague, and one of the few men who still called him by his first name without arrogance. He looked just as he always had, elegant, white-haired, spectacles halfway down his nose. Vale offered a tired nod. "Elias, I've been indulging in my work." Elias slid into the booth across from him, raising an eyebrow. "Still chasing the ghost of immortality, are we?" Vale smirked. "Not immortality. Preservation. At your age, you need preservation. Armand, you're not 35. You're not even 55. You're 67. You can't keep doing these all-nighters, not unless you're trying to outpace your own body into the grave." Vale stared into his coffee, fingers wrapped tightly around the mug. "That's the problem, isn't it? We grow wiser, more capable, more visionary with every passing year. And yet, it's our bodies that betray us, not our minds. Our bodies wither, decay, turn against us. The vessel collapses long before the library's full." Elias sighed. "We've all read your theories, your papers, the notion that if we could stop or reverse cellular senescence, we could extend life indefinitely. But it's not just about preserving you, Armand. Think of the consequences." Vale looked up, eyes sharp now. "Yeah, let's." Elias leaned forward, voice lowering. "What happens if no one dies? You know the stats better than anyone. 8 billion people on this planet. If even a small percentage lived indefinitely, how long before we consume everything? Resources are finite. Food, water, energy. Cities already collapsing under their own weight. Ecosystems shattered by our very existence. Vale countered, voice firm but measured. But we adapt. That's what separates us from the animal kingdom. We engineer. We innovate. If knowledge accumulates, if minds live long enough to build on what they learn without dying mid-thought, we solve the problem. It's death that keeps resetting the equation. Elijah shook his head. And what of power, Armand? What happens when the wrong men stop dying? Tyrants who cling to their thrones forever. Corporations that never fall. If age no longer humbles us, who will? Where does justice go when decay no longer catches up? Vale was silent a long moment. Then, there is no justice in death, Elias. Only entropy. And yet we romanticize it. We worship graves as if they mark the completion of something noble. But they are not noble. They are interruptions. A man's mind reaches its prime around 40, 50, and begins to decline by 70. What if that didn't have to happen? What if, at 70, we could be stronger, not weaker? What if we could finally use all we've learned, instead of watching it slip through trembling fingers? The waiter arrived with food. Vale barely touched it. Outside, rain began to tap against the window, soft and rhythmic, like a ticking clock. Elias spoke more softly now. You always believed knowledge should endure. I admire that. But Armand, if we all lived forever, would we lose what makes life precious? The urgency, the fire, the meaning? Vale's gaze drifted to the fogged glass. No, it's not death that gives life meaning, Elias. It's potential. And what I've seen, what I now possess, has the potential to change everything. He stood slowly, placing cash on the table. I must go. Elias raised a hand.
What have you done now, Armand?
Vale didn't answer. He stepped out into the mist and disappeared into the dark. Chapter 4. The injection. The lab greeted him with silence. No alarms, no flickering lights. Just the steady hum of refrigeration units and the sterile cold of stainless steel. Dr. Armand Vale stepped in slowly, coat damp with mist, the smell of ozone still clinging to his clothes. He set his keys down, unwrapped his scarf, and glanced at the cages. The guinea pigs were thriving. Coats pristine, movements nimble, age erased. There was a serenity about them now, as if rebirth had granted them not just vitality, but purpose. Still calm, he whispered. Still stable. He turned towards the far wall. There, opposite the lab bench, hung a mirror. Tall, antique, carved in oak. A vanity he had installed years ago, when self-reflection still served more than grooming. Now it served reminder. He looked at himself. Sagging eyes, lines around the mouth. Skin no longer taut, no longer the face of the young man who once lectured rooms into silence. His hands trembled, not from weakness, but from the quiet betrayal of age. And yet, the mind remained, still sharp, still awake, still him. He stepped closer. 67 years. Decades spent chasing truth. And I've come no closer than a man scratching on the wall of Plato's cave. His reflection did not answer. I have studied the code of life, deconstructed genomes, sketched the future with trembling hands, but I never arrived. I theorized, I published, I was praised. But what is a man who builds the blueprint and never builds the house? He stared deeper into the glass. Potential means nothing without creation. A man who does not complete what he was meant to is nothing. Not because others say so, but because he knows it. He turned to the bench. The vial awaited him. Crimson, thick, impossibly still. Next to it, the syringe, filled with diluted compound. 0.7 milliliters, just above the safety threshold. He stood for a long moment. "This is not recklessness," he said aloud. "This is alignment. The body is failing. The mind is not. And here, in this moment, I possess the one thing most men never do. A chance, not to live forever, but to finish what I began." He took the needle, rolled up his sleeve, exhaled, pierced the skin of his upper arm, and pressed. The solution slid into his bloodstream with unnatural cold. For several seconds, he felt nothing. Then the pain came. Agony, not like fever, not like sickness, like being torn apart and reassembled in reverse. He screamed, louder than he ever had in his life, flung the stool across the room, knocked over a tray of instruments. Glass shattered. He fell to the floor, convulsing. Muscles spasmed, as if racked by electric current. His blood felt alive, surging, burning, a firestorm inside his veins. He clawed at his own throat, gasping. Then, silence. His breath slowed. His heart steadied. He pushed himself upright, panting, weak, but intact. He staggered to the mirror, and what looked back was not him. The creature was younger, skin pulled tighter, hair thickened, eyes glowing faintly red beneath darkened sockets. But this face, this thing, was not born of ambition. It was decay wearing youth like a mask, distorted, grotesque, and it smiled. "What are you?" Vale whispered. The mirror did not respond in his voice. It responded in another's, a deeper, silkier tone. "I am you without limits. I am the part of you that grew tired of building cathedrals and just wanted to dance inside them. I am the hunger that waited, not to create, but to indulge, to breathe, to feed." The reflection moved, reached off screen, took Vale's coat from the rack, and vanished from the glass. Vale turned and felt himself walking, but not guiding his feet. His body moved to the door, hand reaching for the lock, coat draped over his shoulder. He stepped outside into the night, the mist curling around his form, but the streets were not empty. Two women walking past glanced his way
What is that?
and stopped. One gasped, the other dropped her phone. They saw him. Not Vale, not the scholar. The thing beneath. With an inhuman shriek, he sprinted back inside, slammed the door shut, bolted it. He turned to the mirror. The grotesque form returned. Not hiding now, not pretending. He stared long and whispered, "What do I care what others see? This body is mine. This life is mine. I will no longer fade for the comfort of others. I will no longer wither in silence. I will not ask permission to live." He grinned, and then he walked back outside, into the cold night, not to teach, not to theorize, but to feel.
Free. Free.
He wanted to preserve his intellect, but in doing so, he split it in two. What rises now is not a man of science, but a creature without restraint. In part 2, he will step into the world, no longer seeking answers, but indulgence. And when the hunger speaks, it will not whisper. The city will tremble, the shadows will stretch, and Dr. Armand Vale will finally get what he wanted. Part 2, coming soon. Part 2, Chapter 1, The House of Risk. Dr. Armand Vale was no longer hiding. The fog no longer concealed him. The mirror no longer resisted him. The man who once sought to defy death now stalked life itself, and he had no interest in playing by its rules. He walked into the casino like a wolf, stepping into a ballroom. A long black coat trailed behind him. His face, still monstrous, still twisted from the transformation, drew stares the moment he passed the threshold. Conversation halted. Glasses froze mid-air. The pianist missed a note, and Vale smiled. He loved their fear. He approached the nearest table without a word. Blackjack. The dealer hesitated, unsure if he should speak, deal, or run. Vale reached into his coat, pulled out a roll of bills, and slammed it onto the table. "Deal," he said. The chips clinked into place. Hands were dealt. Someone behind him whispered something under their breath. A joke, maybe, or an insult poorly veiled in alcohol. "You see that guy's face? He looks like death in a lab coat." Vale stood slowly, turned. The man barely had time to blink before Vale's fist crushed into his jaw, sending him backward across the chairs and into the velvet ropes. Gasps, screams. Vale walked over, picked up a half-full whiskey glass, and smashed it on the table, the jagged stem still in hand. "Say it again," he whispered, crouching toward the stunned man. But the man didn't say anything. He scrambled to his feet and ran, bloody and stumbling, into the night. Vale stood upright and turned to the rest of the room. No one challenged him. He walked back to the table and flicked his chips forward. He moved next to the roulette wheel. The croupier paled as Vale approached. "Put it on 13, Vale said. The dealer hesitated. "Put it on 13. The ball spun. The wheel turned. Time slowed. Vale stared through the spin like a predator, watching the ribs of a rabbit rise and fall. It landed on 22. A breath. "Unfortunate," the dealer said. Vale leaned in slowly. "You better pray it was chance, because if I find out you nudged that wheel with a magnet under the table, or any of your little tricks." He glanced towards the security cameras. "I will take this place apart, molecule by molecule." The croupier raised his hands. "Sir, Get your manager." Moments later, a man in a blazer with 2 white teeth and 2 slick hair arrived with 2 security officers behind him. "I'm afraid we're going to have to—" "No," Vale interrupted. "You don't understand who I am. You think I'm a freak, a madman, but I am a very well-connected freak. I know people, real people, who fund places like this and burn them down just to see how fast the ashes settle. You want to risk their money over one bet?" The manager hesitated. "Of course not, sir. Enjoy your evening." Vale smirked. Power was more addictive than blood. He turned away from the wheel towards the bar. That's when he saw her. Young, sharp features, silk dress. Alone but not uncertain. She had been watching the entire time, eyes narrowed in disgust. "Judging him. Good." He approached slowly, standing beside her without invitation. "You don't like my face, do you?" She didn't respond. "But I like yours. Maybe I'll take it home with me." She stood and tried to back away, voice trembling. "Don't touch me!" He grabbed her wrist, gently at first, like a lover, then harder, like a leash. She gasped. A man from the bar stepped forward. "Let her go." Vale turned. He didn't raise a hand. He didn't growl or threaten. He just looked at the man. That was enough. The man stopped mid-step, eyes widened. Courage melted. Vale turned back to her. "We're leaving," she screamed. Fought. He didn't care. He dragged her past the tables, past the guards, past the people who pretended not to see, and out into the night. Chapter 2. The mask removed. She struggled in his grip as they walked down the empty street, her heels scraping, her voice begging. But Vale didn't hear her pleas. He was speaking now, not to her, but to the world. "You look at me," he said, "and you see a monster. But I wonder, do you know why?" She didn't answer. "It's because I've stopped pretending." He tightened his grip on her wrist. Not enough to hurt, just enough to own. We all wear masks. Polite smiles, hollow pleasantries. We say the right things to the right people at the right times. Not because we believe them, but because we're terrified not to. Terrified someone might see who we really are. She whimpered. He looked down at her. "Don't cry, my dear. You should be proud. You're getting a glimpse of what true freedom looks like. I've spent my life resisting temptation, dedication, self-denial. For what? Approval, applause, legacy." He spat on the sidewalk. "All lies. All weakness." They passed a dark alley. Somewhere in the distance, glass shattered. A dog barked once, then stopped. "You think me cruel, but I've simply stopped hiding what you all feel, what you all are. Rage, envy, lust, pride. The monster isn't new. The monster was always here. I've just unleashed it." She looked up at him, eyes wet, but curious. "Then what happens now?" she whispered. He stopped walking, turned toward her. Now I do all the things I never let myself do. I taste what I want, take what I desire, crush what offends me, because I finally understand something." He released her wrist to gesture towards the empty street. "The world doesn't want righteousness. It wants permission. It begs for it. People don't act good because they are good. They act good because they're afraid not to be. They fear the stares, the gossip, the judgment." She stepped back. He didn't notice. "And I no longer fear anything." She turned, ran. He didn't chase her. Instead, he chuckled, then laughed. "You can run, little dove, but I'll never stop. From this day forward..." He turned his eyes to the sky. "I will never stop doing the things I want to do." He walked now with purpose, not as a man burdened by guilt, but as a god newly born. A couple walking hand in hand passed him on the pavement. He pushed them aside without a word. The man turned to protest. "Hey!" Vale turned slowly. The man froze when he saw the face. Not a face. A curse made flesh. The man paled, grabbed his partner, and stumbled away into the night. Vale smiled. An old beggar sat near the corner shop, wrapped in a tattered blanket. "Spare anything, sir?" the man croaked. "Even just enough for a warm drink." Vale stopped, looked at him, then grabbed him by the collar. "You want warmth? Get a job. You want comfort? Earn it. You want a life? Make one. Don't hold your hand out like a dog and beg for scraps." He threw the beggar into the street. The man tumbled like a sack of rags. Vale didn't look back. He just laughed. By the time he reached the house, the city was quiet again. He opened the heavy door of his home, his laboratory, closed it behind him. The silence was thick, but not empty. It buzzed with the echoes of his transformation, of choices finally made. He walked into the lab, lit dimly by old bulbs and flickering instruments. The mirror stood waiting. He walked to it, stared. The face stared back. Not monstrous, not quite, but not human either. "Yes," he said softly, "this is who I was always meant to be." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Chapter 3. The mirror between us.
I have won.
Dr. Armand Vale lies crumpled beneath his desk, arms limp, face pale with sweat. He stirs, gasps, sits up with a violent jolt. His hands tremble. He stares at them. They're normal. He staggers to his feet, rushes to the mirror, looks in. It's him. Not the creature, not the grotesque smile, just Dr. Vale. He leans closer, eyes bloodshot. Softly, "It's me. It's me again." He stares into his reflection, but behind his eyes, flashes. A woman screaming, a casino spinning, a beggar lying in the street. but it feels distant, like a dream he barely remembers. What was I? He grabs a notepad, begins writing furiously. Symptoms: partial amnesia, behavior, erratic, control, lost, conscience present, now, absent, last night. Question: am I becoming something else, or is something else becoming me? He moves to the lab table, draws blood from his own arm, slides the vial under a microscope, stares. His breath catches. It's still there. The blood is different, not corrupted, but merged. It pulses unnaturally under the glass, like it's alive. No, this isn't right. I must find a way to separate it, to cleanse it, to fix myself. He moves fast now. Chemicals, slides, notes, tests. Hours pass. The sun climbs high, then begins to fall. Outside the windows, darkness. Inside, still no answers. Beakers boil. Formulas fail. Every solution turns to nothing. His hands shake with frustration. Why can't I fix this? He turns back to the blood. It still pulses, still glows faintly red, like a warning. The house is quiet, but something has changed. The pain grips his chest. He doubles over. No, not again. The pain spreads like fire. Muscles twist, bones stretch. He crashes into the mirror. Glass cracks, but he forces himself to look. And there he is, not a reflection, a presence. The other Vale. The grotesque grin, the eyes of mockery, the face that lives behind his own. Other Vale low, venomous. You thought yourself stronger than me. You thought intellect could drown out hunger. Vale trembles. Other Vale continues. But this isn't hunger for food, dear doctor. It's hunger for freedom, for pleasure, for indulgence, for all the things you spent your life denying. He steps closer to the cracked glass. You think yourself noble. You're not noble, Vale. You're cowardly. You chained your desires. You buried your passions. You convinced yourself it was discipline. Leans in, but it was fear. Vale backs away. You are not me. The voice laughs. I am everything you buried, and now I'm free. He lunges. The mirror shatters. Darkness swallows the room, and the night begins again. Chapter 4. Blood on the pavement. The night had not yet claimed midnight, but it already belonged to him. Dr. Vale, no longer the man, but the monstrous form of him, stepped boldly onto the city streets, with a crooked grin carved across his gaunt, inhuman face. Shadows clung to him, yet he walked in plain sight, as if daring the world to see. He didn't flinch from the gazes of strangers. He invited them. People turned to look, then quickly looked away. None could hold his stare for more than a second. Something in those eyes unsettled them. Too bright, too knowing, too alive, or perhaps too dead. Vale moved with a purpose now, though he didn't understand where it came from. The blood had gifted him more than strength. It had awakened instincts, a compass that hummed deep within his bones, guiding his every step. He trusted it. A cyclist sped down the path, passing too close. Vale spun without hesitation and kicked the bicycle out from under him. The rider crashed to the pavement with a scream. Vale loomed over him, grinning. Careful, he said, voice dripping mockery. You could hurt someone. He turned away before the cyclist could even look up. Across the street, cars honked as he stepped off the curb, unconcerned. One vehicle braked hard, skidding inches from him and blaring its horn. He turned slowly, stalked to the front of the car, bent the windscreen wipers back with a deliberate snap, then leaned toward the driver and said with quiet menace, I dare you. Come out. Please come out. The driver sped off. Vale laughed, a rasping, guttural sound that echoed down the fog-thick street. Cowards. Every last one of you. You talk, you preach, you smile, but it's all pretense, all of it. righteousness, happiness, virtue. It's a costume, a mask you wear so no one sees the monster. But I see you. I see what you hide behind your eyes. He walked on, pushing people out of the way, scattering them like wind-blown paper. Then he stopped. He had arrived. He stood outside the house, her house, the one from the night before, the girl who had dared look at him with disgust. He knocked once. She opened the door halfway, eyes wide. How did you? He shoved the door open and stepped inside. Another woman was there, a friend. She stepped forward, shocked. Vale barely acknowledged her. He grabbed her by the shoulders, lifted her with monstrous ease and threw her across the room. She struck the wall and fell limp. The first woman backed away in terror. How do you know where I live? I know more than you think, my dear, he said calmly, moving toward her. And now, you have something I want. No, please, she begged. Not that. Oh no, he smiled. Not that. I've moved past such simple needs. My appetites have evolved. He reached out. His grip found her throat, and then his mouth found her neck. She screamed once, then only whimpers. On the floor, the friend, barely conscious, watched through blurred eyes as the monster drank. The sounds were sickening, wet, final. When he was done, Vale dropped the girl like a discarded rag doll. He leaned back, staggered, overwhelmed by the sensation. Then he screamed, not in pain, but in ecstasy. No one would dare, but I did, and I will again. He stumbled outside, his face drenched in blood. He didn't care. He wanted them to see. This is what you fear, he shouted to the night. Not the creature, but the freedom to do what you've always wanted, but never had the courage to do. Two men bumped into him on the pavement. This time, they didn't step aside. One sneered, "Watch where you're going, freak." The other pulled a knife. "You think you can just walk around like that?" Vale grinned wide. "You and your pathetic little tools, your desperate sense of control." The first lunged. Vale struck. The man went flying, hitting a wall with a crunch. The second ran, knife forgotten. Vale watched him go. "Run. Pretend you're good. Pretend you're brave." And then, with blood still dripping from his lips, he returned to his home, to his lab, to his mirror. He looked at himself and smiled. Chapter 5. Reflections. The lab was silent. The only sound was the slow, deliberate tap, tap, tap of footsteps on cold concrete. Dr. Vale himself again stood before the full-length mirror, staring into it with sunken eyes. The blood was gone from his face. His coat hung loose. His hands trembled. He didn't remember it all. Not clearly, but he remembered enough. Then slowly, a shape shifted in the glass. He took a step back. His reflection didn't. From the mirror, the other Vale leaned forward, twisted, sneering, half man, half nightmare. The monster tilted its head and whispered, "You thought locking the door would keep me out. But I was never on the other side of it. I am the door." Dr. Vale tried to steady his breath. "You're not real?" The monster smiled. "Then why do you flinch when I speak?" It leaned closer. "You created me with blood, but I was born from your denial, from every desire you silenced, from every temptation you judged in others, but craved for yourself." Vale shook his head. "No." The voice dropped lower, calmer, icy. "I'm not your mistake, Doctor. I am your mirror, and I will keep returning until the glass shatters." Then, the reflection was gone. Only Dr. Vale remained, trembling. He looked down at his hands. They were clean, but he could still feel the blood. He whispered to the empty lab, "How do you kill something that was made from your own mind?" The mirror said nothing, but the night outside waited. Blood of the Vampire, Part 3, Chapter 1, The Battle of the Mirror. The light flickered low across the laboratory. A faint tremble still lingered in the walls, as if the room itself remembered the horrors of the night before. Armand Vale stood before the tall, antique mirror once more, his reflection murky, distorted by the slightest warping of the old glass. He was back. The monster had receded with the morning light, as if chased away by reason, by science, by discipline, but only in body, not in soul. Armand leaned forward, his eyes narrowed. "No more," he whispered. "You will not take me again. I'm not your vessel. I created the serum. I have the mind. I have the will." And then, a shift. The reflection twitched. Not in sync. A delay. Armand's breath caught. His eyes widened as his reflection smiled slowly, not with comfort, but with dominance. "You think you're in control?" the creature inside the glass said, voice lower, rasped, like it had chewed on bones and secrets. Armand backed away slightly. "I command you. You are a consequence of the blood, a byproduct, a reaction." The reflection stepped forward, but Armand hadn't. The real man remained still, trembling, as the version in the mirror leaned closer. The light around the glass darkened, shadows curling up the corners like burning parchment. "You were weak," the voice continued. "You spent your life chasing preservation while never living. Now I have tasted what you denied us, and I will never give it up." "No," Armand choked, stepping forward to reclaim his image. "You are me, but you are not all of me. I will retake my mind. I will fix this." "Fix?" the mirror sneered. "You injected damnation and called it hope. You turned your own body into a crucible and expected purity to emerge. There's no fixing, Doctor. There is only surrender." Armand reached forward, both hands pressed against the mirror. The surface shimmered. It was warm, alive. "Get out of my mind," he muttered. "Get out of my body." And then silence, stillness. The reflection stopped moving. Armand stared, but now he was looking into the face of himself. Just himself. His real reflection. Had he won? He took a step back, exhausted, heart thudding. His limbs felt heavy. The pain of transformation had left no wounds, but its echoes still danced along his nerves. "I did it," he whispered. Then the mirror laughed. Not the man, the mirror. And Armand's mouth did not move. Suddenly, the man in the mirror leaned forward. "Oh, you fool," it said. And Armand Vale, the real man, tried to run, but his legs didn't move. He was looking out from the mirror. On the other side, in the world of flesh and breath and streets and blood, the monster wore his body. It turned from the mirror, smiled, and walked away. Armand Vale screamed, but no sound escaped the glass. Chapter 2. The creature stood at the door, his monstrous hand upon the handle, breath fogging the cold glass pane. A twisted smirk curled along his warped lips. Outside was a world waiting to be devoured, ruled, reshaped. But just as his foot stepped forward, a voice echoed through the room, not loud but sharp and precise, slicing into his mind like a blade. "So, you've won." He froze. The voice came from behind him, from the mirror. He turned. Dr. Armand Vale, the real one, stood inside the mirror, calm, measured, a glint in his eyes, not of fear, but of clarity. "Your urges were superior, your needs louder, and my years of restraint, my decades of toil, my endless pursuit of something higher, they were no match for the purity of your hunger." The creature chuckled. "You're finally admitting it, Doctor." Vale nodded slowly. "Yes, I gave everything, I denied everything. Love, pleasure, recognition, companionship, all sacrificed on the altar of an ideal." The creature's grin widened. And yet, Vale raised his hand. If your hunger is so powerful, why are you still listening to me? The smile faded. You could walk out that door. You could take what you want. And yet, you stopped. A flicker passed across the creature's eyes. Not fear, something deeper. Doubt. Vale pressed the edge. Is it possible that you're not free? That your need to devour is not freedom at all, but another kind of slavery? The creature hissed. I am the will. I am the act. I am everything you feared to be. No, Vale said. You're the shadow, cast by fear, my fear. You're not the embodiment of power. You're the consequence of a man who let fear define his boundaries. You exist, not because you are strong, but because I was weak. The creature stepped back, uncertain now, the grip on the door loosening. Vale leaned in, his voice low, cutting. Come back. Come and face me. Just once. Prove that your existence isn't just the echo of a life unlived. And for the first time, the monster hesitated. He let go of the door. He turned, and slowly, he walked back to the mirror. Inside, Vale stood, waiting. Chapter 3, The Impurity. Creature stood before the mirror, teeth bared but silent. He wasn't smiling anymore. He was measuring, calculating. You think this is a victory, Doctor? He said, voice low, thick with disdain. You think I came back because you're clever. He stepped closer, pointing a clawed finger towards the reflection. No, I came to remind you, to show you what you are, under the lab coat and the caution. Vale stood within the mirror, still, watching. For your entire life, the creature growled, you never allowed a single impurity into your blood, your mind, your work. You were a monk masquerading as a man. Every meal, calculated. Every breath, restrained. You turned away from the world to chase immortality, and in doing so, you buried your life. He placed a hand against the mirror. The glass rippled faintly. But I am your impurity, he said. I am the stain you were too cowardly to confront, and you didn't create me, Armand. You unleashed me. Vale responded with a quiet strength. And you believe that makes you superior? The creature laughed, harsh and bitter. I am what you could have been. I feel, I taste, I live. You wasted your youth on theories and your prime on rejection. Not one moment of indulgence, not one yes to anything that wasn't sterile or safe. You confuse appetite with living, Vale said. And you confuse abstinence with virtue, the monster snapped. Vale stepped forward, his hand mirroring the creature's on the other side of the glass. You say you are the impurity, but maybe it was the impurity that made me human, not the removal of it. The creature sneered. You're quoting philosophers now. Vale didn't blink. No, I'm remembering who I am. Silence. A beat passed. The creature's eyes flickered, not with rage, but with doubt. Vale pressed the moment. You wanted freedom, but here you are, looking at me, talking to me, seeking me. The monster's lip curled. Because you're the cage. No, Vale said quietly. Because I'm the mirror, and you can't bear what you see. Chapter 4. The Reckoning. The creature stood alone in the lab, no longer sneering, no longer performing. The room was silent. No prey, no audience, just the faint ticking of a clock and the low hum of glassware still warm from experiments long abandoned. He turned slowly to the mirror. Dr. Vale's face was still there, trapped behind the glass, watching, silent. The creature stepped close, his voice a whisper at first, but not weak, intimate. I've sat behind your eyes your entire life. He didn't blink, watching, waiting, enduring. His lip curled slightly, not in malice, but in memory. I saw the things you could have done, the paths you could have walked, the people you could have touched, the pleasure you denied, the rage you buried. I saw it all, and I remember every time you said no to life. He moved closer. All you ever did was create. You created formulas, theories, proofs, 1,000 equations in the hope of saving mankind. But every line you wrote, every cell you modified, it was all for them, for some noble version of man that doesn't even exist. He sneered now, not at Vale, but at the thought. You weren't building a cure, you were building a fantasy. A perfect man in a perfect world, where no one craves, no one bleeds, and no one sins. His hand tapped the mirror. But you forgot something, Armand. He leaned in, voice deepening. You are not perfect. The room grew still. The monster's breath fogged the glass. You are a man, and men have desire. They want, they ache. And instead of understanding that, of embracing that, you spent your life killing it. He stepped back, arms slightly out. And now look. A slow, terrible smile spread across his face. One injection. Just one. After decades of purity, of not letting a single impurity into your lab, your bloodstream, your life, you injected it all. Everything you claimed to hate, everything you said was beneath you, all of it, into your veins. He tapped his chest. And this is what came out. He paced the room, letting the silence breathe. I am what you created through suppression. I am the byproduct of your control, your denial, your damned intellect. I was your shadow, quiet, invisible, buried. He turned slowly to face the mirror again. But now, he raised his arms. Now I'm the man. He pointed at the reflection. And you are the echo. The mirror quivered. Vale's face stayed composed, but his eyes, something flickered. The creature stepped forward one last time, resting his forehead against the glass. You chained me for a lifetime, but it took only one moment of weakness for me to take everything. And with that, he stepped back into the darkness, smiling as if he'd waited centuries to say those words. Chapter 5. The One Thing. The creature turned from the mirror, his coat sweeping behind him like a shroud. The dim light of the lab cast long shadows along the floor, dancing as if afraid of him. I am done with this conversation, Armand, he said without looking back. You are inferior. I have everything. I am everything you never were. He stepped toward the door, his voice curling with venom. You kept me chained, suppressed, starved for decades, and now this face, this power, this is what you gave birth to. He reached for the handle. Behind him, Vale's voice, calm but resolute, rang out from the mirror. One last thing. The creature froze, didn't turn, didn't answer. You say I suppressed you, Vale said. You say you are the sum of every unmet need, every buried desire. The creature sneered. I am the truth you couldn't live with. No, Vale replied. You're the echo of an idea I held too long. That made the creature blink. You live for desire, yes? For freedom, for power, for indulgence. Every night since you broke free, you've taken whatever you wanted. You've hurt, frightened, stolen, and you've told yourself it was justice, that you earned it. The creature turned slowly, jaw clenched. I have no guilt. I deserve this. I have needs. You chose starvation. I choose life. Yes, Vale nodded. You live only for yourself now. And tell me, who have you become? I've become free, the creature snapped. Free? Vale's voice sharpened. Free to walk the streets, terrifying women. Free to rip the life out of someone just because you could. Free to threaten cowards and pretend they're your enemies. The creature's hands curled into fists. Vale leaned in at the glass. Tell me, who is it you want in your life now? Around you? What kind of people do you want looking at you, listening to you, following you? The creature paused. Vale's voice dropped to a whisper. Do you want them? The ones you've been mocking. The ones who run in fear. Who lie flat or grovel or hide behind smiles. Is that what you're building now? A kingdom of scared mice? The silence was suffocating. Vale took one breath. You have power now. But for what? To rule over beggars? To stand above ashes? The creature's voice faltered. No, I'm not here to serve them. They are beneath me. And yet, Vale said, they're all you have, because you pushed everything else away. Everyone who could see you, really see you, is gone. You live for desire. But tell me, who do you share it with? The creature turned his head, the muscles in his jaw twitching. Vale stepped closer in the mirror. You say you're strong. Then choose. If you wouldn't let the cowards, the liars, the scavengers ride beside you. If you wouldn't let them be part of your world. He paused. Then why are you building your entire world around them? The creature staggered a step back. Come back to me, Vale said. Because this, what you are now, isn't freedom, it's decay. You think I buried you? No, I forged you, but now you're untempered metal, beautiful, wild, and destined to shatter. The creature looked at the door, and then at the mirror. His lips trembled. Chapter 5. The end of Vale. They stood facing each other, man and monster. Armand Vale on one side of the glass, shoulders low, eyes calm. The creature on the other, still radiant with power, still cloaked in that aura of unshackled freedom. But something had shifted. For the first time, the creature didn't smile. Oh, you say these people are beneath you? Vale said. You say they are unworthy of you, that you'll tear them apart, make them kneel. But what if you're one of them now? The creature's eyes flickered. Don't be absurd. You murder. You take. You force. You hide behind rage and call it strength. That sounds like them to me. I would never be them, the creature spat. They're insects. Inferior. If I ever became like them, I'd destroy myself. Vale took one small step forward, his voice a whisper now, like a surgeon's scalpel, cutting at the deepest part of a wound. Then why don't you? The creature blinked. Vale's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to, because that's exactly what you've become. A murderer, a thief, a bully in the night, feeding off fear and calling it freedom. You were never the answer. You were the scream I buried. And now, I see why. The creature's hands twitched at his sides. He glanced down. Something was wrong. The room behind Vale, the real room, no longer surrounded him. The creature stammered. No. Vale turned away from the mirror and began to walk. No! The creature screamed, slamming his fists against the glass. You tricked me. You lied. But the voice no longer carried weight. It echoed, faint, like something fading down a long, dark hall. I'll come back, Vale. The creature howled. I will gather strength. I will break you. Vale turned, one last time, and faced the glass. I believe you, he said softly, and that's why I can't let you live. The creature's face twisted in horror, then rage, then desperation. Vale placed one trembling hand on the side of the mirror. I'm sorry we couldn't have worked together, he whispered. You were part of me, but not the better part. The creature bared his teeth. I am the better part. No, Vale said. You're the louder part. He turned away and walked toward his lab bench. The camera does not show the act, only the mirror and the creature inside it, watching, screaming, pressing his hands against the glass as cracks begin to form. Final word from Vale drifts into the silence, almost inaudible. There is only one way this ends. The mirror stood silent, still. Inside it, the creature raged, slamming the glass with fury, mouthing curses that carried no sound. But something changed. The edges of his form began to shimmer, then flicker, then fade. Piece by piece, the monster dissolved. First his hands, then his face, his outline unraveling like smoke caught in a beam of light. Until at last, there was nothing, only a mirror, and in it, no reflection at all.